kindness,
people and places,
sincerity,
love,
integrity.
the incredible universe. You're listening to the Living Out Loud podcast with Natasha Moy and Dr. Vincent, where we talk about life, love, and the universe. You're listening to the Living Out Loud podcast with Natasha Moy and Dr. Vincent, where we talk about life, love, and the universe. Today, we're going to be interviewing Elly Johnson, who is a truth maven, ex-police officer, and a truth and lies expert. She is the woman who can get you when you say something that isn't 100% true. Well, that's what I'd like to think at any rate, right? If I was lying on the show and I said I love Dr. Vincent, or I said I didn't love him, would you be able to tell if I was telling the truth?
Is that my first question?
Yes, that's your first question.
That's a big first question. Okay, well, why don't we test it? Why don't you actually say something and I'll tell you whether that's true or not.
Well, look into my eyes and tell me that you love me.
I love
Natasha. She does.
Come on, Natasha. Look into my Asian eyes and tell me that you love me.
I love you. No, I was so fascinated when I came across you, Elly, and I realized that this was something that was even a thing. Because let's be honest, truth and lies is the cornerstone of society. It is the way we like to operate. And deception is so often the breaking point of relationships, of situations, of work arrangements. You know, deception is, and yet every single person, I think, embodies a level of deception inside them, no matter how good they are. And would I be right in saying something like that?
Yeah, I agree. It's a huge topic. It's not right or wrong or black or white or truth or lies. It's bigger than that. There's so much to it. And yes, we've all got a little bit of truth in us and we've all got a bit of deception in us and we bring it out at certain times. So yeah, you're right.
Why is it that some people are capable of lying effectively and carrying on double lives, for instance? You know, there are people out there who carry on a completely separate life to the one that they have, and people turn around and say, we never knew. How do they manage to get away with that?
I know somebody just like that. No names, but I do. I know somebody that is actually living a double life that has another family, and it is somebody that I know through somebody else, so kind of, a couple of times removed, and watching it from a distance, it's amazing to watch. How do they live that life? And I happen to know that person is living with a lot of stress, because that's a lot of burden to carry. So anyone that's carrying a lie around that I would consider to be a high stake lie, so there's a consequence to it. It's not a comfortable lie. It will impact their life. It'll impact their cells of their body. They will feel it. You'll see they'll come unraveled in some way, shape or form. It's not something you can comfortably carry around with you if it matters to you, if you actually have a conscience and you're not, don't have, psychopathic tendencies and so on. But yeah, so it's hard for someone to do, but it will come out. You will notice that in their lives, in their bodies, in their actions. They'll get sick. Basically, you get sick.
So we're going to hand over to Dr. Vincent soon, but you started as a police officer. So you actually started working in the police force, and at a young, you must have made the most glamorous policewoman ever. I mean,
I was thinking just that.
Yeah, weren't you thinking that she got seriously glamorous?
Not to sound politically incorrect, but pull me over. Just to get a selfie with you. Like, if you pull me over and you say like, I know, I'm sorry, but then this is a conversation between friends.
We don't feel bad on this show that bad, because we've decided that because I'm a woman and Dr. Vincent's Asian and a man, we get to kind of cover off a whole lot of the stuff. And so if we have a little, a little dig and it's a bit sexist or it's a little bit racist or it's a little bit funny, then we don't feel that bad, because
it doesn't sound so threatening when it comes from an Asian man.
We're kind of poking fun
I feel that I can say that.
So,
well, I'm old enough that when I graduated at the age of 22, we weren't allowed to wear makeup back then. So we didn't look as glamorous as the policewomen I see walking around the streets now. They've got the false eyelashes on. They look gorgeous.
They do. Why were you not allowed to wear makeup?
Now that's
in Vic-
sexist.
we were Victoria Police, and it was just frowned upon. We had to at that stage. Some people did, but it was not nearly as prevalent as it is now. We just had our hair pulled back in a bun and very, very plain. So if you look at my graduation photo and photos when I was in the police force, I graduated on my 22nd birthday.
Oh, wow.
They're not so glamorous. It's not so pretty.
What would have made you go into the police force? It's a really interesting place to go.
Yeah, I didn't have a driving force to do that. I was actually working part-time at a bar in Melbourne, and there was two guys worked on the door. One was a federal police officer and one was a state police officer. And I was looking for a career path, something to do, and they were arguing, saying federal police, state police, federal police, state police. So I applied for both. And the state police got back to me sooner, and that's how it started. So it wasn't this burning desire to get involved.
And what did you do specifically while you were actually there? Because obviously that informed some of the decisions around what you're doing currently. That must have been a part of the process.
Yeah. General duties. I worked mainly general duties, worked in a few other areas within the police. So I was only in for 5 years. So at 5 years, I decided to move on and do other things. But my interest in human behaviour and truth and lies probably kicked off the first week after graduation, and we were sent out to the streets of Melbourne. Here's your gun, here's your handcuffs, here's everything you need. Go be a police officer. And it was really scary at 22. And I remember the first week we were called to a suspected shoplifter, and I think that was my first aha moment, that I just did not have enough tools in my toolbox when it comes to getting the truth from someone. So there was this man there suspected of stealing a jacket, and I said to him, so did you steal the jacket? And he said no. And I said, did you steal the jacket? And he said no. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm pretty sure he did. How do I get him to say yes? And I had this aha moment that I really knew a lot about what we needed to get and to have the points of proof for theft, put him in front of a magistrate, but not a lot about how to get it. Okay. And I looked back over our curriculum, and we weren't taught a lot about how do I get information from somebody and how do I increase the likelihood that it's going to be truthful information. So that's where the fascination started and carried on. And for 20 years, I've really been working in that space day in, day out.
Okay.
Wow.
So you went... You currently speak and teach, and give courses and communicate about truth and lies. I'm fascinated. I mean, people who tell the truth, but there must be a fascination more around the lies. I mean, people are constantly, and we watch these TV programs, like Law and Order and all the rest of it, and they bring in, the truth and lie expert, and he's the brilliant cop, and he knows when people are lying because he watches the eyes flicker and the little tick, and, the person sweats. I mean, just give us a little bit of an idea of how you would know that somebody wasn't telling the truth.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think to refer to those cop shows is a really good way to tell you don't believe what they tell you because they make it look so easy. They do. They make it look so easy, as if somebody can walk into a room and they saw the suspect scratch their nose, therefore they can conclude that the person wasn't. I've read articles that say if somebody looks away, therefore it's a surefire way to know that they're lying. So you've got to be really careful with those clues and those cues and those signals, because you can read it wrong, you can get it wrong, you can be led down the wrong path. So, and
also people who lie read all of these things too. So they purposely, probably, this is in my head, probably they're doing exactly the opposite so that people get thrown off. Is that true?
Yeah, but if somebody's going to practice deception, so if I come to you knowing that I'm going to lie, and I go down to the library and pick up a body language book and I go to the section that talks about lying and it says a liar always looks away, then I think, right, okay, then I won't look away.
Yes.
If you're perceptive, you'll be able to notice that that's a bit odd as well. So yes. if you kind of get to that baseline and understand how I'm communicating, and then we get to that topic where I want you to believe that I'm being truthful and I start staring at you, that's going to be just as odd. So there are some telltale signs that can leak through with deception stress, but also if somebody is pretending to, really work the system, you can notice that too. But it's not as easy as they make out. There's no Pinocchio's nose. There's no one thing that if someone does that, that means they're lying. So just be careful with that.
Can you beat a polygraph test? Is that even, because again, this is something that we learn or we watch from TV shows or movies. Can you actually do that? Can you beat the lie detector?
Okay, so the co-founder of my business is Australia's leading polygraph operator. So I know a little bit about polygraph tests, but I'm not a polygraph operator. I've sat in on a few, I've watched a few, and I've also been wired up myself. So what he says and what I've learned from him is you're not really beating a polygraph test per se. Your polygraph test is not a truth and lies test. It's a behaviour change recorder or analyzer, or it's actually the polygraph operator that's analysing it, but it's just a behaviour change recorder, and it's recording behaviour that can indicate deception stress in response to a particular question. So there are books that have been written to say if you do this at this particular time, then the needles or the computer will go crazy, and therefore the operator won't be able to score it properly. But what Steve used to tell me, he could tell when somebody was trying to play games. He could tell when somebody was actually trying to beat it, and he'd give them 3 chances. And if they kept on playing around, he'd say, well, clearly you don't want to be here. You can't force somebody to do a polygraph test. Yeah. But when they're there for the right reasons and they're volunteering to be there, then the machine records that stress, and then it comes down to the analysis of that. So
I wonder who would buy those books. Like, I mean, the book, How to Beat the Polygraph.
Well, I think there are a lot of people out there. I mean, there are a lot of people who are involved in deception every single day. You know, it's part of what they do. And I mean, I have had friends. I was involved in a relationship for a very, very long time with someone who lied pathologically. And it wasn't even that he did it because he did it a lot because he didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So instead of just saying, no, I don't want to go for dinner with you tonight, he would say, something else, something along. It was this need to protect the other person almost from the fact that he perhaps didn't want to actually have that experience. So he would be, I'm sorry, I have to go to work tonight. And he didn't have to go to work, but it was just, and I would say often, why do you need to do that? Why can't you just say to them, I'm sorry, but actually I really don't feel like going out this evening, or potentially, but it was almost impossible. And
what was his answer to that? What did he say to that?
He just couldn't get himself. He just said that, he just found it really difficult. It was a default position to constantly go towards the lie. I have other friends who are really beautiful people and who are very kind and generous, who do the same thing, especially around social things. So
are those Indonesians? Because
no.
like Indonesians, I'm from Indonesia, so I know this very, very well. Indonesian people, we are really, really good and creative at not saying no. So we say, maybe later, I'll get back to you, and hoping that you would forget, but we never say no. And that's the reason why I asked, because some people just can't say no.
Yeah, well, no, they're not. Actually, neither one of them are Asians, funny enough. They are both very, very, one is South African, one is Australian. No, I think there's an element where, especially some people, I think, are exceptionally selfish, and so therefore their needs come first, but they understand that they need to continue a social life, or they need to continue whatever it is, and therefore don't want to jeopardize the possibility of, maybe being invited again. And potentially other people just like to always be the good person. They always like to, they don't want to sort of stand up for themselves and go, I'm not really keen. So when you obviously talk to quite a lot of corporate clients and corporate people, because lying in an interview must be something that is very prevalent, but could be massively damaging to a business. So what kind of advice do you give them, Elly?
Yeah, lying in interviews, it's big. And I actually train lots of a lot of interviewers across lots of different business sectors, and it can be incredibly costly if you get it wrong. If you hire the wrong person, if you trust the wrong person. I do a lot of training for the Australian government in their security vetting area. So they're actually conducting interviews that go for 3 or 4 hours and making a decision as to someone's suitability for a particular security clearance. Now that affects the security of information and our nations. So we want them to get it right. Job interviews. There was a survey I read recently that 18% of people that were interviewed believe that it's necessary to lie in a job interview because everybody else is doing it. So you have to do it. And in that same survey, 30% of people were admitted to lying. And so there's a lot of people lying out there. And sometimes it's about little things, like 50% of that 30% that were lying about their leisure pursuits. Like what they do in their spare time. Like I go to the gym or I ride my bike, or like that's a high percentage. And you might say, well, so what? I don't care about that. But do you care? I mean, some people say, well, if they're going to lie about that, they're going to lie about other things too. But then there's a whole lot of other people lie about qualifications. You can jump on the internet and get fake certificates that look amazingly real. And often people don't check them. They don't do good reference checks. They don't do good qualification checks. So people know they can get away with it. And in this competitive marketplace that we're in now, where a lot of people are out of work, then people do start to get creative. So interviewers need to be very sure about what they're looking for in any type of interview, their questions, but also how they create what I call a truth-telling environment. So what do they do to prime that person, to condition that person, to create an environment that increases the likelihood that you're going to get truth from someone? You can't just expect it's going to go, well, how long have you got? Because we've got courses.
We've got at least 40 more minutes. So I want to know, like, how do you prep an environment to get the truth?
No, hang on a second, Elly.
Oh.
Just to make sure that when people watch this video, they watch till the end. Before you answer that question, let me ask you this question first. You said all of these things, that 18% of people lie because they feel that everyone else is lying. 50% is like stretching the truth because they feel that they need to. Why, in your experience as truth maven, why do you think people lie? What is the number one reoccurring and consistent reason that people tell you, or that you've discovered the reason why they lie?
Great question.
We could probably break that down into 10 or 11 kind of areas, but it comes up to 2, and that is to make a gain or avoid a pain. So when you were talking about your partner before, your ex-partner, Natasha, about was it ex-partner or partner?
No. It was someone along the way, and there'll be many. So I don't want
many years ago. Okay.
I don't want to pinpoint anyone. I'm sure I've probably dated quite a few who've been like that.
So those sorts of lies, which a lot of people would call white lies, it doesn't really matter. That's all about still avoiding a pain. So maybe for him it was pain of embarrassment, or pain of not being the good guy, or pain of looking stupid, depending on what the situation is. So it's kind of like the same reason we do anything in life, to make a gain or avoid a pain. And then there's sort of subsets of that. So
are people more likely to lie when they think that they are likely to get away with the lie?
Depends on the context, depends on the situation, depends on your values, depends on yes and no. Yeah.
Because one of the biggest impediment to me committing to a lie is that the details, the amount of things that you have to memorize. Like, I'm busy. I like when you lie, I really am. When you lie one thing, and to cover the lie, then you have to lie 2 things, and then where does it stop? And there are too many things to remember, especially when the lies get too detailed. Like, who did you have dinner with? And I was like, okay. And then, what did you have? I don't know. I didn't prepare this question. So this is the reason why I asked.
Exactly right. And you're spot on, Vincent, that this is why, with my cop brain on, this is why crooks come unstuck when very quickly with good police interviewing, because they work out their basic lie, their first lie, like I didn't do it, or I wasn't there. But very quickly they come unstuck, because you cannot possibly think of every question that somebody's going to ask you. You just can't. And then for every lie that you tell, you have to, as you said, invent another 2 or 3 to cover up that first lie. So now you know what the truth is, but you've got to ditch the truth and you've got to pick up another story, and then you've got to kind of back that story up with some other lies. It gets messy, it gets hard. And what happens is your brain gets overloaded, and you've got the emotional aspect of how it makes you feel, like I feel bad, or I feel guilty, or I feel this, or I feel that. And then you've got the cognitive, the thinking side of things, like what did I say before? What are they going to say now? What should I do? So you've kind of got the emotional and the thinking side. Now, when you've got those both under load and under stress, they're going to crash, and that's where we kind of get the leakage or the change in behaviour because of that stress. That's what's going on behind the scenes. Is that
so?
Is
it's
that
both psychologically and biologically. It affects you. Lies affect you both psychologically and biologically. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, yeah. That's kind of the end result. Yes, psychologically, my thinking. Yeah, and you're talking about biologically, what's happening in my body too, and my stress. Yeah, and in my emotion.
Wow.
So my mother.
Yeah. So, and again, it depends on the lie too. If it's a low stake lie, we're talking before about Natasha's hair before, and how beautiful her hair is.
My gosh, my hair that I've had to cut off because it was burnt. Yes.
Now,
they're nice.
If you said to me, do you like my hair? And if I didn't like your hair, but I wanted to tell you that I did, then I could say your hair is great. But it's a lie. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
But it's my brain quickly says, does it matter? Is it important? Is she going to ask another question? Is there a way for it to be proved or disproved? So my brain categorizes that as a low stake lie. Therefore, it's kind of easier to tell, and you're less likely to see deception stress associated with it. But I do like your hair, Natasha. Don't get me wrong.
I'm all right if you don't. Because my mother always used to say to us that lies have short legs. They can't run very far. Once you've said one, eventually you catch up with them. And I want to talk a little bit about truth, because I think truth is really important. And I think truth is something that people, we're currently living through this COVID experience, which is seems to be ongoing, and there is a huge amount of misinformation. The conspiracy theories are massive. An enormous group of people who don't believe that COVID exists, that it's even out there, and that people are actually lying to create an environment where they have power. And ideally, I think that is a lot about lies. Lies actually are often there to give power to the people who are in a position to want to control other people. If you can misinform on a large scale, you can essentially create fear, therefore you can create control, which I believe a lot of people are doing at the moment. So it's when a government official, when a politician comes along, or a car salesman, a home salesman.
I'm gonna stick with the politician.
So sorry, but I'm just saying I'm not saying that these people necessarily lie, but there is a global idea that certain types of people in certain industries, and that's just existed for forever. The politician lies, and the car salesman lies, and the house salesperson lies. They're all telling you something that's not true.
They spin the truth.
Why do you think that those particular people attract that ideology around themselves from other people that believe that they're not telling the truth?
Because often they're not telling the truth. But go back to the make a gain and avoid a pain. So in certain situations, people are in jobs or roles or functions where they're so driven by getting a particular result that they'll do whatever it takes to get it. So the car salesman wants to sell the cars, and his boss gives him a target that's really high and says, if you sell all these cars, you will get blah. So the incentive is there, and he may be pushed. He may be told if he doesn't sell all those cars, he will lose his job. So he might feel that he needs to twist the truth or hide the truth to be able to achieve the goal that he is after, to make that gain. And politicians, anyone really, if they want something enough and they feel that they can't get it by being honest and truthful and authentic and transparent, then what's the option? They're going to go down the other path.
Elly, I'm South African, and we have a very abrupt way of speaking, and I, for some reason, have no filter. So the truth for me is really, really important. I say it as I see it. Often I think people have referred to me as abrasive. That's a term they like to use quite a lot when it comes to my personality. But I will often say what I feel and what I think about anything, and especially about myself. You know, I'm quite honest about myself, my failings, and the things that I struggle with. I know that, you know, I spend a lot of time in Asia and I have an Asian family. And so I also know that they tend to be quite forthright and quite honest. You'll walk in and they'll say, wow, you got so fat. You know, and there's no answer for it, but it's the truth, and they're very, you know, the smile on their face, and there's no hurt or harm, and it's like, wow, you got fat, you got so many lines on your face. When did they come? I mean, you're dying inside. You think, God, I want to kill myself right now. This is awful. But it's beautiful.
Yes, yeah. No, that's so the question there, and the question that people need to ask themselves is, do I really want the truth? Because I don't watch the news. So, you know, I was worried that you were going to ask me a big political question about somebody and something. I don't even know who that is. I just don't watch the news. But we say we want the truth. We're up in arms that somebody has lied. Like, how could they lie? We want the truth. We want the truth. And we sort of position ourselves as being so honest and so upstanding. And that person lied, and that politician lied, and that boyfriend lied, and this person lied. Everyone else is lying. But when you kind of drill it down, do you really want the truth? Because that's harder than you realize. And exactly as you demonstrated there, you walk in the room and they tell you what they think. Oh my God, you look fat and you've got lines on your face. Now, if that happened here in this culture, we'd say, excuse me, you are so rude. If it happened in the workplace, it's like, they're bullying me, they're picking on me, they're discriminating against me, they're this, they're that, they're that. So we've created a culture where you can't be truthful most of the time, and nor necessarily should you. You have to say, well, what's my intent? What's the purpose of that? If I say to you, wow, you look fat because I want to hurt you, that's not good. If I'm saying it as an observation because I haven't seen you for 2 years and you look different, and I'm just using an honest word.
I mean, the word different is much better than fat, right? Like, I mean, you look different.
There's a much better word than both of those. The word when somebody is fat or that they've put on weight is, you're looking so healthy.
Yes.
That's it.
So healthy. So, and there's a couple of movies that you may have seen. Do you know the Jim Carrey one, Liar, Liar?
Yeah.
So he has to tell the truth for a whole day. So that's a good insight into what does it look like when someone's telling the truth. Or the other one, what's it called? The Invention of Lying.
The Invention of the Lying, yes.
And that's fascinating, the concept around that, just to watch that lies weren't even invented, that all they could do was tell the truth. So wherever they went, they were just telling the truth. And you cringe, you sit there cringing. They go on a date and they tell the truth on this date. And you think, wow, that's so different but yet somebody that goes on a date says, I'm looking for a truthful guy. I'm looking for
when you say you're
partner.
looking for a truthful partner, what you're really looking for is you want someone who is not going to cheat on you. So when you say I want you to be truthful, you're not saying I want you to tell me my ass is big. You're going, I want you not to cheat on me. I want you to be honest about your intentions. I want you to be faithful, and I want to believe that you're being faithful all the time, because that's something that I need in order to be secure. So, you know, if I tell you, does my bum look big in this? And you say, no, darling, it doesn't. I'm okay with that lie. What I'm not okay with is when you go out and see my best friend or my sister, and then you come home and say, you know, I was out with Bill. Then that betrayal is
9 months later, you have baby.
Yeah, exactly. But the betrayal of that, infidelity as a lie, is huge. And I think when we think about lies, we think about infidelity first before we think about anything else. So, you know, that I think is really interesting. And there are a lot of women and men out there who are experiencing that constantly. How do you know when your partner is not telling you the truth? I mean, you've had experience of this.
It's such a big topic. It's such a huge topic. We almost need to pour a glass of wine and, like, you know, sit here for another 3 hours. But it is massive. It is massive. I got nothing planned. I don't have any wine though. But okay, so I think in my experience and navigating relationships and where I'm at the moment in my relationship and what we've endeavoured to do is you have to have conversations about truth. You can't just go in to have the happy wedding day and assume that your understanding around truth is the same as my understanding of truth and we're on the same page, because creating a relationship that has a foundation of truth won't just happen. It has to be nurtured, and you have to have the hard conversations, and you have to feel safe. So you have to be confident to speak the truth, but you also need to be confident to hear the truth and encourage the truth. That doesn't happen in most relationships, and that doesn't happen without a lot of work, because where do we get that information from? Where do we get that courage from? Where do we, so most people, they start hiding things and hiding, little things. And I can't say that, and I'll tread on eggshells over here, and he gets upset if I do this. And, sort of then even micro cheating can come in, where someone is flirting over here and doing little things over that. And then that can steamroll on. There's so much to that question. How do you know if someone is cheating? I can't answer that in a simple question, because it's different for different people. But you can say that if someone is cheating, there's something inherently wrong with the relationship. Like you're broken. There's a break in there, and that foundation of truthfulness and connection and honesty has somehow either never been there or has been disrupted.
But you did say things along the line of some people can't handle the truth, or some people, they say that they want to hear the truth, but they don't want to hear the truth. And
no.
Natasha, you're speaking about cheating and everything, like having been in the position where I have been cheated on. I actually, although I prefer the truth most of the time, but in this case, because you're talking about the foundation of relationship, I think cheating is one of those things that, in my opinion, relationship can recover from. So
can't recover? Did you say can't recover?
No, cannot recover from, because in my opinion, then if somebody told me that, oh, I'm so sorry, Vincent, I cheated on you, and then I would like to know the story behind it, and then the next time this person goes to the grocery store or something, I would. So having been in that position, I actually developed a a new policy in a relationship. Like, if you cheat and you're lucky enough to get away with it, don't do it again, but don't tell me that confession is good for the soul, because I think in a lot of cases when people confess, or people say that, oh, I'm sorry, I cheated on you, it's not to make me feel better, it's to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, well, carrying a lie around you, there's only really two reasons that people confess a lie, and that is because they think the evidence is so overwhelmingly against them that the truth is going to come out anyway. So that's number one. And number two, it's the weight of that. So as you said, maybe someone's confessing because it's just, I can't carry this around anymore. It's just doing my head in, and I feel so bad about it. I was presenting at a conference early last year, and at the end of my gig, a young lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, Elly, when is it okay to lie to your partner?" That was a question. It was this big question.
Right.
Lucky she didn't ask in front of the audience.
Yeah. But there's no, I mean, lies are part of life. They're part of humanity. It's never going to be something that's not going to be around. People are going to cheat. People are going to steal. People are going to be deceptive. It's part of, and I'm sure that every one of us at some point will indulge to a large degree or a small degree in that. I think it just depends on, how you choose to carry it. But there's also the other way of lying, and that
hang on. How did you answer? What was your answer? When is it okay to lie to your partner?
Yeah, so with the short version of the story, she quickly told me a story that she was dating this guy, but there was another guy, and she'd met them both on Tinder. And so guy A, she'd kept in touch with as friends, just friends. Guy B, she was now in love with, but she had told guy B that she had known guy A through just as friends through a network. And she didn't tell him that she also met him on Tinder. and that they were still in touch, but there was nothing happening. So it was doing her head in because she knew she was doing nothing wrong, but she had told him the wrong thing at the start. And that was a burden for her, and she was carrying it around. So she told me that story, and I said to her, she goes, what should I do? What should I do? And I said, no, I can't advise you what to do in that case. You need to make that decision. However, I'm going to ask you this. Guy B, how do you feel about him? She goes, I love him. He's so amazing. He's so good. I want to build a future with him. Okay. So would you like a future that has the foundation of truthfulness and honesty at the core? Yeah. Okay. So we kind of talked about that. And I left the ball in her court because, again, it's not for me to say because wouldn't make sense for me to say, you go and do this. But she got back in touch a couple of weeks later, and she did. She came clean and she told him the truth. And she said it was a little bit kind of prickly for a while, but he said, I understand. And she felt so relieved. And she said, oh, thank God, we're on a great path now. And she's so glad that she actually told the truth. So, and for some, there's 1,000 people, millions of people that would have a different story where they actually came clean and that person flew off the handle and said, oh, I can't believe you lied to me. So it's so different. And you've got to come back to, do you make it safe for people to tell you the truth? If you want the truth, are you making it safe?
That is the $1 million question. That is the $1 million question of the entire.
Thank you so much.
We've had. That is the $1 million
building
question.
up to this.
Exactly. The thing is that so often people lie, and you alluded to this earlier in your conversation. You said because partners or people make it too difficult for you to tell the truth. So you tell the truth, and their reaction to the truth is so poor that you eventually become
you won't do it again.
Worried about their response to something that you know is quite innocent and that you haven't actually done that's wrong, that you start to lie about that very normal thing, and you suddenly turn into somebody who is on this role in order for them to not behave poorly. So you're with a jealous partner, or you're with somebody who is who's insecure, and you tell them something very normal. I went out to dinner, or, I had a friend around, or I played tennis with somebody, or whatever the case may be. And their response is, why did you do that? Do you like her? Do you like him? Or, is there something between you? And you know there isn't. And you've honestly told the person that you're with, and I've had this experience and it was super and I like them. They're such a nice person. And they've responded so badly. The next time you do it, you're going, you know what? I had a really nice experience. It was really innocent. I did nothing, but I'm not going to tell them. So we have lying by omission as well. So lying by omission, I think, is even bigger than the real lie.
100%. Well, there's only two ways that we lie: the lying by omission and commission. So leaving stuff out or making stuff up. So they're both forms of lying. So if I went out with a male friend, and my fiance said, where were you? I can either make up a story and say that I was with Jessica, or I can avoid the topic. And so, yeah, but it's, as you said, it's based on what you think the response is going to be. How safe is it for me to be truthful? And that from a relationship, because I know that a lot of the work that you're doing is about good relationships and solid relationships, both at work and at home. You can apply these same thoughts across in the workplace too. So you have a leader that has a team, or a CEO that has an organization of thousands of people. Like what is the behavior that they're demonstrating from the top, and what is the behavior that a manager is demonstrating to his team, and what is she expecting back from the team? So if sales aren't being met, do you really want to know why? Do you want to know what's happening out in the field? Are you making it safe for your teammates to come to you and say, hey, I'm struggling, or this is happening? A lot of leaders say, I've got an open door policy. The door's always open. Come on in and tell me what's going on anytime. But if you go in that door and you tell them what is going on and it's the truth, you might cop it. You might get in trouble. All hell might break loose. So then you go, it's just easier to keep the truth from them. Let's just bullshit for a bit longer. Can I say bullshit?
No, you can say bullshit in our program at all. It's interesting. My father has a huge, big business, and he's quite old now, and he's not that well. But growing up, he would respond very poorly when you told him something that was often true. And he would think about it for a while, and then I remember, he'd tut-tut, he liked to, and then he would say, that's not true. I've been thinking about that. That's not true. And no matter how hard you tried, and then as soon as you were put in the spot and you felt like you needed to defend yourself, you overworked it. You literally started to over egg the situation. And then you really seemed like you were not telling the truth because you were so desperate for them to think you were that you came across like a liar. And it's a tactic of certain people to actually unbalance you and to give them a sense of power so that you're constantly second guessing yourself, constantly fearful. And he created it in all of us. And, it was like every now and again when we would say something and he would believe us, the relief would be huge. You'd feel so relieved that he had taken it and it was true. Then there were other times where you would just feel so challenged by it and so scared just because you would sit there and shudder. You would know. He at one stage, I think, had it sounds terrible, but I think he at one stage had a private investigator follow all of us when we were younger. And, so he knew what we were doing. And it was just, when we found that out, it was terrible. We felt like we couldn't do anything. We were, he was, anyhow. So I kind of get that sense. I understand that feeling of, wanting
complex.
To be honest. No, just not.
It is. It's complex, but that's where we can come back, as we said before, and anyone that's watching this, just think: do I make it safe for people to be truthful? Like, what do I do? Like, what's at the core of our relationship? And if you have never really built that foundation of truth and had conversations, my fiance and I have conversations about this all the time, and he's lied to me, and he's even been unfaithful to me. So, Vincent, you said you couldn't take somebody back.
Yeah.
And you actually, well, you might not. I can, because there's a bigger story to that too. Okay. So you've got to take into consideration everything that's around it. And some people go, no, that's rubbish. It's a done deal if that's the case. But in my case, it's a much longer story. And there's a lady called Esther Perel. You might know.
Oh, I love Esther Perel. I love her stuff.
Oh, she's the best.
She's awesome. I love her.
Listen to some of her coaching that she does with live coaching that she does with couples. It's the best thing, particularly if you find yourself in that situation. And she talks about some relationships coming back stronger than ever after somebody has cheated, after there has been an affair. Not for everybody, but for some. So, educating yourself.
No, but
yeah, and that's
Vincent,
I think okay still, too, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I think you're still too young. I think with age, you develop a different sense of nuances around reality and truth. We were talking earlier about the fact that a lot of people don't want the truth. A lot of people would rather live in a lie. A lot of people who are in relationships where a partner is, cheating, or they are cheating, or whatever. They will know, their gut will tell them that everything is not okay, and yet they will choose to ignore it for whatever reason. They don't have the strength to leave. They don't want, and I think, I'm sure there have been times when I have bought something from someone knowing full well that they were lying to me. The salespeople, I'm the best. You come and sell me something and you tell me it's amazing. I'm like, my mouth's open. I'm like, yeah, I'll buy that. I remember
there's a name.
What is it?
It's called a truth bias. It's like a built-in filter that we have, and it's good. It's a good thing, because can you imagine us going around life distrusting everyone we came into contact with? It would be awful. It would be a horrible life. You go meet someone and you constantly doubted everything that everyone said. We have to have this built-in trust. We have to have, and it's a good thing. It's a truth bias. It's a trust bias. But as long as you know we have that, then you can, in different situations where there's a higher likelihood of hidden or twisted truth, then you can be more alert, more aware that in this situation, I might need to ask more questions. I might need to take more action. I might need to cross-check. I might need to do something else. But in day-to-day living, you don't want to believe that everyone's lying.
You were talking about creating the safe environment for people to come with truth, to tell you the truth and everything. And I understand that in terms of the personal relationship, in terms of the direct collegial relationship. But going back to the question that Natasha asked before, how do you create that in the interview environment or in the contract negotiation? Because they know if they don't tell you what you want to hear, be it the truth or the lie, they don't get the job or they don't get the contract. So it's very quote unquote unsafe.
Yeah. Okay, so you need some tools. You need some tools like this for a start. Okay,
what are those
this one,
tools?
The first one is a bullshit button.
I love that.
If you haven't got one of these, you need to get yourself a bullshit button. It yells out bullshit when you press it.
That is so funny. That is hysterical.
It's gorgeous. But also, I'm a big Wonder Woman fan, and if you know Wonder Woman, she has her golden lasso of truth. So, you know, in an interview, you could just sit somebody down and nice to meet you, thank you.
You tie them?
Just wrap it around them, yeah. And so, okay. So if you don't have those tools, you have to go back to the motivations and think about, right, why might somebody lie, and how could I increase the likelihood that they're going to be truthful? Now, the truth is, you don't get to choose how honest they are. They get to choose that 100% of the time.
Yes.
All you can do is create an environment that encourages truth. And I simplified, I think about three mindsets. So I call them truthy, fancy, and decepty in my training courses. So truthy is the person that comes to you with a truthful mindset, intending to be truthful. You ask a question, they'll give you the truth. On the other end, you've got decepty. They come to you knowing that they're going to be deceptive. And in the middle, you've got fancy, sitting on the fence, kind of weighing it up, sussing you out, seeing if you have a clue, seeing how smart you are, seeing how experienced you are, and they'll decide whether they're going to be truthy or deceptive as the interview goes on. So in the initial stages, I say to interviewers, you have to think about, how do you prime somebody to be more truthful? How do you create an environment? And there's about 20 different things you can do. But some of that comes down to your confidence and your competence too. Some of that comes down to even priming people with words like truthfulness and honesty in the initial preamble, the initial introduction. Some of it comes down to thinking about what they might be more likely to twist the truth and lie about, and kind of making it okay. Like, there was a guy I helped with his resume years and years ago, and he had a 6-month gap in his resume, and he said, I've got to fill that in before I go for jobs. I said, what do you mean you've got to fill it in? He said, well, recruiters don't like to see gaps, so I've got to put something in there. And so he was making up, he said, I'm going to say that I was working for my brother, he's an accountant, and I'll say that I was doing admin, and then I'll say this and I'll say that. So the recruitment industry and a lot of other places have made it hard because people feel that they can't tell the truth. They can't say, you know what, I had 6 months off and I did nothing.
And it was great. No, exactly.
And it was great. I watched Netflix. Now, it's different coming out of COVID. It's going to be there's a whole new narrative going on now, because people are more accepting about working from home and having time off and not having a job. It's a whole new terrain in regards to that. But with the security professionals, with the security vetting people that I train, we talk about really spending time on that preamble and that introduction, and also asking someone for their commitment to honesty. Can I have your commitment today that the information they give me is going to be truthful? Now, they can still lie, but if you think about it, if you think about decepty, if decepty intends to lie, and now he or she has just said, yes, I will be truthful, when they get to that thing they're lying about, it's like a double whammy. So not only are they telling the initial lie, they're also breaking their word to you. And when we're spotting lies, we said it's hard. There's no Pinocchio's nose, but we want to make it harder for someone to lie to you, which makes it easier for you to spot, if that makes sense.
It's like putting people under oath.
Yeah, it is a bit like putting people under oath.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is kind of important around this whole truth and lies thing is that I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm a very confident person. I've always believed that you kind of go your own way, and that the way that you go is the way that you go, and that no one can go the way you go, that you are completely and utterly individual. And therefore, I'm comfortable telling the truth. I'd say 99.9% of the time, because I don't really care whether you like me afterwards, whether you give me the job, whether or not we're going to be friends. I'm kind of okay. And I get a lot of people saying to me, I was really frightened of you when I met you. And I think it's because they kind of know that there isn't a filter. And actually, I'm going to say it like I see it. And if you don't like it, I'm okay with not being friends with you. In fact, I'm happy with just, one friend if that's the way it turns out. But I want to have that open relationship with someone where I can be very, very honest. And
sometimes too honest though, because the very first thing that you said to me, I don't know whether you remember or not, but the very first thing that Natasha said to me was, "Oh, have you done interviews before?" I said, "Yeah, a couple." "Okay, well, don't be shit because I'm good." That's what you told me. Yes.
I'm sure I didn't say that.
That was what you said. Yep. That's what she said to me. "Don't be shit because I'm good."
Oh, I'm probably said it with
very good.
I'm sure it was just I'm sure I had it was a tongue-in-cheek thing and I was laughing, but you probably as an Asian.
But no, that's fine. I mean, like, I like it. Well, we are best friends now, so clearly it works.
Absolutely.
It works. But also, Natasha, what you're demonstrating there is that you are making very clear what your standards are and what your expectations are. You're wearing that. You're saying, you're owning that. Here's my values. Here's my morals. Here's my expectations. I call it as I see it. Sometimes it's a bit rough. Sometimes it's a bit prickly. But that's the person that I want to be. I want to be that person that calls a spade a spade. I want to be known for somebody that speaks her truth. I want to be known for somebody that is courageous. So you've decided that is the person, the life that you want to live, and you're broadcasting that too. And you're okay, whatever. So you're not doing it to be rude or blunt or the opposite of that. And what somebody does with that, how your behavior lands on somebody is their issue, not yours, because you're actually living your truth.
I like it though, because you don't have to guess. You don't have to, exactly. It's almost like you come with a manual book.
You get what you know.
Yes, rather than guessing.
Great.
So I'm going to.
And that's what everybody would say that they want.
Exactly.
Yes.
Do they? We've come to the end of the interview, but I'm going to ask the two of you a question to end off today. And just before I ask the question, Elly, if people want to get hold of you to come and speak or to train or to, have a one-on-one consult so that you can tell them if their husband is cheating or their wife is cheating, how do they find you?
And they can find me at ellyjohnson.com.
Can you spell that for me, please?
ELLYJOHNSON.com.
It's actually it is for any of the people who watch the YouTube, it's up, but obviously if you're listening to the podcast, we'll also have that on our links. So my last question to the two of you, and I'm going to start with Dr. Vincent, and I'm going to do the question to Elly last. Dr. Vincent, when do you lie? When do you lie? When is the time that you lie? Because we all lie at some point.
Yes.
When do you lie?
Two things. Yes. The first situation that I lie is because I know the truth will hurt the other person. And secondly, if I think telling the truth will put me in a more difficult situation, more in a messier situation, in the way that, like you put it just now, I used to be in a relationship where my partner sort of kind of wanting to know whatever that I was doing and everything. So it's much easier sometimes to just say, "Oh yeah, well, I bought some eggs," rather than "I met with such and such," because it's just, it's not even more difficult. It's just too much work to deal with. So those are the two situations that if I'm going to lie, that I would lie in those two situations. However, like I mentioned just now, lying to me is a part-time job. Like, it's too many things. And if you only meet someone once and then you lie, and 3 months later you meet that person again, and I was like, oh my God, what did I tell her or tell him like 3 months ago? So honesty is the best policy in my book, 99.9% of the time.
Okay, so the question then, Elly, and you are the truth maven. However, I bet you lie as well at times. When do you lie?
Everybody lies. It's just how much and how often. So everybody does. I haven't met anyone yet working in the space that I work that says I never, ever, ever, ever lie. So if that's you, get in touch because I'd like to talk to you. But having said that, I try really hard not to lie, and I'm very aware of even thinking about lying. And we do. If you really tune into yourself, you'll realize that you actually think about lying probably more than you actually lie. just if I see this person or this happens, I'm going to do that. We do think about lies. Whether we act them out is another thing. So
I'm not going to let you dodge. You have to do the answer. You have to answer. So
yeah, I'm just trying to think of I lie. I sometimes have a glass of wine extra that my hubby doesn't know about. So that's big. And
did I see a new pair of shoes at the back there, like on your right?
But it's funny you say shoes, because I was about to say shoes. I have a bit of a shoe thing. So I have been known to, in the past, buy some shoes on special only, but leave them in the car until he goes to work and then bring the shoes out and put them in. So that's a mission.
That's a mission, and that's very normal.
And then when he says, where like nice shoes, and I said, yeah, no, I haven't for ages, haven't worn them before, but so that's a pretty common one. And you're guilty too. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the shoes.
Can I very quickly comment on what you just said, because I swear to you, it was not going to be another question, but then you said something that just really was interesting to me. You said that if you tune your mind and brain to anticipate lie, or like, that not to tell lie, then you'll be more attuned to whether you lie or not. And I think that's true. And I just didn't know that that's actually a thing, because one of the things that I used to lie about, and I don't even know why I did that, was my height. So no, seriously. No, seriously. Every time, to the point. So, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. So
you have to hurry. We have to finish this. So
okay, up till 3 years ago.
We'll come back for part 2.
Up till 3 years ago, when people asked me, "Hey, Vincent, how tall are you?" I would always say that 6 foot. And that was a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie.
6 foot.
That is a lie. And then after that, I saw the light and I said, no, I'm 5'11". But now, sometimes when people ask me, Vincent, how tall are you? 6? No, 5'11". Like, seriously, it was so embedded in me that I had to retrain myself to the actual truth that I'm not 6 foot tall.
Oh, that's so funny. You're 6 foot tall in my book, though. And we've come to the end. I just want to thank Elly. Thanks so much, Elly Johnson, for being the truth maven, for telling us all these interesting things. It's been fascinating. I do think we need to have a second interview at some point. Dr. Vincent, I love you. You're funny and you are so clever.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for coming on, Elly. You are now a friend to our show. You're no longer a guest. You're a friend to our show, and hopefully we can have a part 2 again.
And I love that. And I'm going to be really honest right now, but it's not a friend to the show. It's a friend of the show.
Oh, of the show.
A friend of the show. Okay. And a friend of Natasha and a friend of Vincent. And thank you.
You are a proposition. You are a friend.
All right.
And you know what? I'm going to send you one of these. I'm going to send you a Wonder Woman lasso, because I have 2,000 of them.
And Dr.
And we're going to send you this mug.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Thank you so
very
much,
magical, so.
both of you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to watching you do interesting things. And Dr. Vincent, don't ever tell me a lie. Okay, I will know.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.